If you can smoke your own cheese, why wouldn't you? I'm going to walk you through a really easy way to smoke cheese on our very own PK100. One of the things I love about the PK100 is it's a really precise piece of machinery that can get us down to some really low temperatures, which is going to help us cold smoke this cheese. Cold smoking is a form of cooking and infusing flavors with foods that is usually done between 60 and 90 degrees. Anything over 100 degrees is going to start a cooking process, and that's what we're trying to avoid. Specifically with our cheese, we want to keep the temperatures of the smokehouse below 90 degrees. At 90 degrees, the cheese is going to start sweating and releasing some of those oils and melting a little bit, and that's just going to affect our final product. Today's recipe is going to be pretty exclusive to the PK100. Other smokers can't get low enough and maintain that low temperature, which is what we're looking for when we're cold smoking this cheese. So to start, I've got a selection of cheeses here that is kind of a personal preference. I've got some pepper jack, some sharp cheddar, and some mozzarella. You can basically smoke any cheese you want, as long as it's a little firm. Some of the softer cheeses will melt out and create problems in your smokehouse, so I chose these based on density and flavor. Once we get outside to the smoker, we're going to use some dry sawdust and get that started on our heating element. Once that smoke starts billowing, we're going to turn the temperature of the smokehouse down to about 80 degrees. And since it's warm outside, that's going to be mostly to just monitor the temperature of the smokehouse. We're also going to prop the door so that we have good airflow and we don't overheat, and then we'll be smoking for about 2 hours. This recipe is really easy and quick in terms of the smoking process. The hardest part is going to be waiting the 16 days to finally try it. First things first is I'm going to take a little sample of each of these cheeses and vac pack it for later, so that once this is smoked, we'll have a comparison so we can see the smoke ring, the color definition, and even taste the difference. To arrange the cheeses in the smoker, I'm going to be using these screens that we use for jerky a lot of times too, but they work really well once inside the smoker. The racks that are in the PK will be just fine, but these are going to offer a little more support as that cheese softens. So we're just going to arrange these on the racks. We'll do 3 per. We want to leave lots of space between these so that we have lots of good airflow for even cooking and lots of smoke distribution. So we've got our cheese all racked up. Let's head outside and get the smoker started. The most important thing to get started is the sawdust smoldering so that we have nice rolling smoke throughout the smokehouse. So what I have here is I have our PK100. I have it on the 625 watt setting, which is a little lower. I'm going to set the smoker to about 110 degrees. That'll get the heating element hot enough to get the smoke rolling on our sawdust. Now we're going to take our sawdust and put it directly on the heating element. I have our dampers set at about 50% below and above so that we get good airflow to stimulate that smoke movement throughout the smokehouse. You can see the smoke is rolling pretty good in the smokehouse now, so we're ready to drop the temperature and get our cheese inside. Now when we close this up, we're going to leave the door propped. Again, temperature control. We want that smoke to get evenly throughout the smokehouse, but we don't want it to get too hot that we melt our cheese. The next step in the process is to take our cheese and wrap it in some butcher paper or some parchment paper. Then we're going to set it in the fridge for about 48 hours to mellow out and breathe. This is the second step of our flavor development of our smoked cheese. The first was incorporating the smoke in the smoker. This part is going to start to slow that cooking process and even out those flavors. Then we're going to vac pack it and age it for about 2 weeks, where we're going to get a really even, consistent flavor at the end. And obviously these aren't going to be airtight, but we do want to get a pretty good seal on them. And fold under, just like that. You'll see some of the oils will start to come out a little bit. That's just fine. We're not going to lose any flavor over it. And into the fridge we go. We'll see you in 48 hours. So if I didn't have to wait the full 2 weeks to get a proper test for this video, I don't know if I would have made it. But here we are, 2 weeks later. Our cheese has rested in the vac packs and we're ready to try it. I'm gonna break open one of each flavor so we can give it a taste test, and then we can compare it to our control, which we saved so that we can have a comparison. Well, it smells good. It's a really low-level smoke. I don't think I overdid it too much, which you can do, and it gets really chalky, and it has a tendency to dry out a lot too, so you don't want to over-smoke it. I suggest the 2 hours that we went with, which seems to work really well. So I'm going to cut off the edge. This is certainly edible, but I'm going to go for the inner pieces because we want to see how well that smoke and those flavors penetrated into the block of cheese. And again, it looks like I didn't over smoke it too much, which is good because the cheese is still holding together pretty well when I slice it. And it's not breaking, which would indicate some dryness. Go for our pepper jack. Yeah, these smell absolutely wonderful. Now we're going to take our controls and set these next to our smoked cheeses so we can compare. Compared to our controls, you can see that each of our cheeses that we smoked are slightly darker and they're slightly drier too. You can start to see some cracking in here. That just means that they were heated up a little bit and lost some moisture. It doesn't mean they're going to be dry, but inevitably when you smoke something, you're going to pull out some moisture. So you can see again, compared, our smoked cheese in my left hand here is slightly darker. And on the pepper jack actually, some of these you can almost see a slight smoke ring around the outside, which is really cool. It means that smoke flavor penetrated really well. We should have some really good flavors. And then lastly, in our mozzarella, you can see the dryness and the texture changes there. And even as it heated, it slumped a little bit and kind of condensed. But I'm really excited to try these, so we're gonna get into it now. All right, and I'm gonna work my way from more mild to the more pungent cheeses. So I'm gonna start with the mozzarella, go to the cheddar, and then work to the pepper jack. The mozzarella here had a great aroma when I opened up the bag, so that is smooth and delicious. The smoke flavor is really well rounded in there. It got through the density of the cheese and penetrated well, so that flavor is really nice and strong, but very, very smooth. I'm really happy with that one. Yeah, I'm excited for these other ones too. I'm gonna finish this though. And our cheddar. This one doesn't smell as smoky, but you can still smell the really sharp aspects of the cheese, so we'll see how this goes. There's a sweet aspect that this smoke flavor adds to the cheese. And with something like a sharp cheddar, I think that plays really well. It's a little more subtle than the mozzarella. I don't know if it penetrated as well, but the flavor is still very, very apparent, very smooth, absolutely delicious. And lastly, our pepper jack. So the spicy notes in the smoke, at least from a scent perspective, play really well. That's interesting. We'll see what we got here. So that one too. I think it has something to do with the density of the cheese, but this one's a little softer. So I think the smoke got in there a little bit more, and that balance with that spicy pepper jack flavor is really nice. I can imagine this going really well in a burger. Wow, I'm really happy with the way these turned out. The actual effort that I put into the smoking process was minimal. It was quite easy. You have to monitor it a little bit more, but it was quite easy. The hardest part was waiting the 2 weeks for them to rest in the vac pack. Now I'm gonna put all these together with some crossinis and some sausage and serve it up as a cheese and sausage board. For this recipe, much more, head to psseasoning.com. There you will also find a link of where you can purchase our very own PK100. Be sure to follow us on all forms of social media, and if you like this video, click subscribe. Till next time, I'm Chef Jed. Thanks for watching.